Wow, we have a new uh, person to welcome to CFUO. It's Reverend Paul Roach, and the title of his thing today is "What's So Funny," which is kind of fun because he and I were just talking about spiritual uh, laughter as a spiritual practice. But here's some great. I'm just going to go into some more depth about Paul. He was senior minister at Unity of Fort Worth from 1988 until 2018. Uh, he also served in the Unity movement on several boards, including the board of Unity World Headquarters. Do you know Melanie Dean? Yeah, Paul?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Do you know Melanie Dean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she is a good friend of ours and member often of this group.
Oh, lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Uh,
Yeah, she said on.
Paul has
Yeah,
written
lovely.
a award-winning book called Unity and World Religions. It focuses on perennial philosophy within all spiritual traditions, and he's written a number of articles for Unity, uh, traveled extensively throughout the world, and extended stays in uh, where? Oh, um, what did you say, Paul? You said
Um, India, Nepal. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, India and Nepal, and has interests in way too many things to mention right here. Um, believes joy, laughter, and gratitude are essential qualities for spiritual uh, patterns. But yes, anyway, um, there's a review about the book uh, World Unity and World Religions, and it's by somebody we all know very well, James Gaither.
Oh, yeah.
He's a frequent guest here for us,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and uh, he says unity in world religions is engaging and free of ponderous academic analysis. I like it. Yeah. I especially appreciated the many quotations from mystics of the different traditions. As a teacher of world religions and courses for over 30 years, I am delighted to have this brilliant new book and plan to use it as a text in my courses. Well worth reading by anyone interested in a deeper an understanding of human existence. James Gaither. Anyway,
Nice.
so Paul, welcome. I am very interested and eager to hear what you have. So take it
Well,
away.
all right. Well, thank you so much for a lovely introduction. Great to be back with you all again. I was here earlier in the year, I think, as I remember, and lovely to be back. Yeah, Jim Gates is one of my closest friends. We met at seminary when he was a professor there, and hit it off. And our family and his family have been close ever since. And Jim's one of the most real people you could ever meet. There's no talked about Doug. You talked about ego earlier. Obviously we've all got ego, but Jim wears it lightly. I mean, he really does. He's a very centered and a guileless person. One of the most genuine people I've ever met, and that's saying something, especially in Unity. I shouldn't say that, but some Unity ministers that think a whole lot of themselves. I always think that's a little dangerous. Better to think nothing of yourself. I understand that Jeff did a sermon on laughter at one time for you all, and we shared that we used to do a laughter meditation at my Unity church, and so I guess this is laughter part two. I guess we can never get too much humor, right? So bear with me if some of what we're saying today you've already heard. Yeah, our subject is healing humor. And have you ever said to somebody, what's so funny? Get real. This is no laughing matter. Sometimes we even add an epithet or an adjective to it, don't we? What's so freaking funny here? Um, because we get annoyed with certain people who are Pollyanna or whatever, or are trying to deny that there's problems in the world. And we certainly don't want to do that. We're not in that Pollyanna business. Sometimes because we focus on positivity, people think that we never want to look at the dark side. But I think in order to be truly positive, you have to integrate the dark side. Yes, we have to understand that there's a both and world. And so there's a time for seriousness, but there's certainly a time to transcend that into something higher and more spiritually attuned. The world is serious business, there's incredibly sad things and distressing things happening in our own personal lives, but also in the larger world. I don't have to reiterate any of those to you. You're all too aware of the craziness that is happening, and has always been happening on planet Earth, to tell you the truth. It's always been a crazy, crazy place. However, we know that if we focus too much on it, what happens? It's the law, isn't it? It's the law of focus and attention. Whatever you focus on, whatever your attention goes, it magnifies, right? So the last thing we want to do is magnify all the bad simply because we're focused on it. We're obsessed with it. We spend too much time on our iPhones or on our computers looking at it. All we do is it exacerbates it both in the world and for ourselves. So I have to put a limit on what I watch, right? We need to be informed, but we don't need to be overwhelmed. Yes, correct? So, I don't want to. I know some people say, "I never watch the news. Never watch the news." I think that's unwise too, because you're in a fool's paradise. You need to be informed, but there's also that sense of I don't want to be over-informed. I don't want to be bombarded with all the craziness, and of course that's even more so today, where a lot of it you don't know if it's real or not. So some of it's AI generated. It's propaganda. I don't know if anybody watched the World Cup. I'm British, so I was gunning for England. But there was after the event, after various games, there was a whole lot of stuff put up on the web that basically wasn't true. It was just made up, and you have to sift carefully between what's real and what isn't real today. And of course, some of our leaders take advantage of that, don't they? They take advantage of things that aren't true, and it becomes a vicious cycle, actually, if we overwhelmed with it. We're worrying about worrying. Doesn't that always create peace in your mind when you worry about worrying? No, it doesn't. The case thing makes more worry. Judging judgmental people creates solutions, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. It just makes you feel bad, and it makes you feel disempowered from living a happy life. Don't want to do that. Again, being overly serious about the seriousness of life only creates more stress, and is often it brings a sense of hopelessness. So there is another way, obviously. That's why I'm writing this sermon. There is another way. We're not going to leave it there. We're going to come up higher. There's an old saying, isn't there? You've probably heard it before. If you want to be enlightened, you have to lighten up. Yeah. In fact, that's one of Jim Gaffer's favorite lines. If you want to be enlightened, you must lighten up to give life the light touch. Both light in weight, but also light in energy. Right? There's a buoyancy in terms of our ability to enthusiastically embrace life, and this is where humor comes in. So just to reiterate, I'm not talking about laughing at others' expense, so that can be fun sometimes, but it's very hurtful. Or seeking solutions through hysteria. I can't stand it anymore. That only leads to the funny farm if we're not careful. And I'm not talking about whistling past the graveyard either, because that's putting the sort of a denial on things. Oh, it's not going to happen. It's all right. It's all going to be okay. Well, maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Let's look at it honestly and still see the humor in it. And some of us don't want to take anything seriously. Have you known some of those folks? Maybe we've been them ourselves. I'm not taking anything serious. It's all crazy. Well, I think we have to sometimes, right? That we have to balance here. This is about balance. It's about both and, as we said earlier. So, having said that, let's find healthy ways to give life the light touch. Yeah, we up for that? I need everybody to nod. Okay, there we go. Okay. Finding the ways that, humor is essential to enable us to lighten up. So let's look at Christianity. Jesus was a funny guy, actually, but the gospel writers went out of their way to serious him up. I mean, they were very moralistic. They wanted it to be serious and people to pay attention. But the real Jesus was quite humorous. He used a lot of hyperbole, sarcasm, irony, wordplay. Most of that has been lost. And of course, the Bible translators didn't like the idea of Jesus being funny, so they took some of the jokes away, etc. But if you read it carefully, you can still find some humor in Jesus, because I think he was a very funny guy. I think he was open to the ironies and joys and craziness of existence. There's a time when he has he says, don't be like the hypocrites who blow their trumpets, to get people's attention, which was meant to be a joke at the time. He also says, talking about swallowing a camel and all that, he liked hyperbole. He called Peter the Rock, he called him the Greek name Petrus, which was the Rock, and which was ironic because he was more rocky than rock. He was the guy that was always unsure about everything. In fact, he denied Jesus 3 times, right? So again, the irony of the name there. I will make you fishers of men. It was meant to be lighthearted. But we lose all that because it's the sanctity of it. We feel we have to take everything so seriously about what Jesus said. I think the best way to approach Jesus is with joy, to see that he was full of that energy. I like the laughing Jesus. You ever seen that painting of him laughing? Got it on my altar at home, and I like that because I think Jesus wasn't all, Jesus, gentle Jesus, meek and mild. No, he was raucous. He was fun. He was having a good time. In the Gospels, Jesus asked one time, he says, who do people say that I am? Remember that part? And he says, some say you're Elijah, some say you're Moses, etc. And then he says, who do you think I am? So I got a modern day parallel to that. And this one goes like this. Who do people say that I am, says Jesus. And the disciples answered, some say you are the ontological essence of divine oneness, the mysterium tremendum, the articulation and manifestation of the divine logos, the eschatological fulfillment of cataphatic longing. And Jesus replied, what? See, I thought that was funny because, we wrap Jesus up and we wrap spirituality up in all this technical stuff, don't we? All this academic stuff. And really, we have to free ourselves of that and know it's very simple. It's who we are in truth. And we don't have to wrap it up in all these terms and concepts and intellectual ideas. We have to directly be with it and acknowledge the truth of our own being. As Doug said earlier, we are already divine, right? We are the divine in expression, but we fill our minds up with all kinds of other stuff instead. So Jesus is way down to earth. That's my bottom line in that. And then there's the mystical teachings of the East. We're all familiar with the giggling gurus. I love the giggling gurus. They're always happy. They're always laughing. Now, there's some that drive you up a tree because they're too giggling. They won't shut up. They're always giggling about everything. But there's some that you can feel the joy within their consciousness. I love the Dalai Lama. Have you ever heard him laugh? Oh, my goodness. He's so connected to spirit that he just, when he spontaneously laughs about something, it's infectious. Sadhguru is another one, modern day one. One of my favorites is Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, a Tibetan master. And every time you look at a picture of him, he's smiling. He's got even if it's not with the mouth, he's smiling in the eyes. It's just delightful because he's found the truth and he's joyful. Pema Chodron, there's another one, wonderful American teacher who became a Tibetan Buddhist. And Kalu Rinpoche, another one of my favorites. It's the joy in their faces, joy in their eyes that's so important. And I think that's the key, really. True humor and lightness is joy, right? It's that's the essence of being alive, is to find joy, to find that inherent joy in even in the midst of tragedy, right? This is the key. Even in the midst of suffering, there can be joy. There can be that moment of connection. I've worked with many people over the years in desperate situations, dying of varying diseases, and yet we've managed to, if not me with them, but family with them, found a moment of joy and gratitude, even in the worst of situations, right? Because it's always available and it transcends everything. It brings those people up out of the depths of despair because they're connecting in love with joy. So I think that's hugely important, especially right now. There's certain people, in our leadership, and I'm not going to name names. This is not political, and we want to avoid that. But when I look at them, I don't see any joy. I just see bitterness and antagonism to other people, and that can't be the right way, can it? There's got to be joy and happiness. There's got to be gratitude and grace. Um, I saw some people after a soccer game, a contentious soccer game, getting together in a circle, praying together from the different teams, opposing teams. And I thought that's what we're talking about, right? It could be a tough game, but at the end of it, you come together and acknowledge that we're grateful to be here. We're grateful to be in this situation. We're all in this together, folks, aren't we? There's no separation in truth. We're all in this together. And so let's enjoy it and have fun, basically. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. Um, in Wales, where I'm from, by the way, this is a very profound spiritual truth. All problems are solved with a cup of tea. That's the absolute truth of where I'm from in Wales. I remember my grandmother used to say, "Let's have a cup of tea and a bit of fun," and I love that. Let's have a cup of tea and a bit of fun. And in fact, Led Zeppelin quoted in one of their songs to have a cup of tea and a bit of fun. So look that up sometime. Um, and I love it though because it's like don't worry, take a load off. Just be, and I think we do it in America with a cup of coffee, right? Coffee solves everything. The smell of coffee in the morning. We can get through anything with that. Humor's not necessarily about jokes, is it? But they can help if you like jokes. It's more about sharing the ironies, the absurdities, the exuberances of being alive. I think that's what I like most about humor. But like I said, jokes can help. Jeff's from New York. Billy Joel said once, he said, "Well, remember when I found you there, alone in your electric chair? I told you dirty jokes until you smiled." I like that song. And sometimes that's okay when we're in our electric chair of trouble and worry and woe, and to have somebody come along and try and jiggle us out of that. Other times we just want to punch them and say, "Go away." Yeah. Anyway, hopefully not. In the Middle East, there's a living tradition. A guy named he's got various names depending on the country. Mullah Nasruddin, Hodja, other names. It's a living tradition that's been going on now for thousands of years, and it's about. He's a joke teller. He's a trickster. He's a tells tales, but it's quite amusing. But it also has a spiritual undertone to it, a teaching story that we can take at different levels. And I like reading about his stuff. There's one time when the mullah was spreading breadcrumbs throughout the village, and some villagers came up to him and said, "Hey, listen, what you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm keeping the tigers away." And they said to him, "Listen, mate, there's no tigers here in this town." He said, "See, it works." Yeah. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? There's another story that he tells that where he's outside his house under a street light and searching around. He's been doing it for a few minutes, and somebody comes out and says, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" He said, "I've lost my keys. I'm trying to find them." And the guy says, "Well, okay, let me help. Where'd you lose them?" He said, "Oh, I lost them in the bedroom, but it's dark in there." So he's out there where the light is. Think about it though. Take it a little deeper. We often do that. We look in all the wrong places because we think, oh, well, there's light. There's light in that person. I better follow them. They know something. But the truth is, you have the light within you, right? Oh no, I'm dark. I don't have any light. And so I'll go outside of myself to try and find my truth. And eventually you have to come home to yourself, right? We always think there's light everywhere else, but not in me. I'm a dark person. I'm not ready for truth yet. But we have to say, no, I'm going back in the house. I'm going back into my reality. So there's deeper meaning. All right, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, he was a longtime vegetarian. And at one picnic, this is a story I've heard when I was in seminary. One picnic, he nailed a hot dog to a tree. And everybody would pass by and have a laugh, because he was trying to show that that's the proper place for a hot dog, not in your mouth, nailed to a tree. I did find out recently, though, from studies that he became a meat eater later in his life because he was told by his doctor that he needed more animal protein. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of interesting, isn't it? A long-time vegetarian would go the other way. But that was Charles Fillmore. He always obeyed what his guidance told him, right? So just because it wasn't because it was a fad to be a vegetarian. If he was guided to do something else, he would do it. And I think that's wisdom too, not always to follow because we think it's the cool thing to do. So, are we convinced yet that there is the validity to humor? Yes. So I'm going to give you now 7 ways we can do that in our own lives. You may have picked up a few already in what we talked about. Maybe there's something that tickled your fancy that you think you can use. But I'll lay out 7, and we'll see how we go from there. Number 1, actively seek out humor. We seek out things, but maybe we need to seek out humor as well. We obviously get on the news every day. We seek that out. We seek gossip. We seek but seek out humor because there's plenty of it around. When we can seek it out with friends and loved ones, we can seek it out on the media. There's a lot of humor on the media, on podcasts and whatnot, and some of it's exceedingly funny and enjoyable. We can see it in movies. I have my favorite movies that I watch every so often that give me a good feeling. Like I said, there's a lot of it out there if we look. So actively seek out humor, the humorous situations. I'm partial to British humor, so I watch some comedies and British shows. And there's a guy named Bill Bailey in Britain that I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I would recommend, okay, I'm going to make a recommendation. There's just a 5-7 minute piece. It's called Not Too Bad, All Things Considered. Not Too Bad, All Things Considered by Bill Bailey. And I think it's hilarious. I think I love it. I watch it every so often. I introduce it to friends. I think he nails it in that little piece, and yeah, I think you'll get a kick out of that one. So I'm inviting you to actively seek out Bill Bailey. All right. 2, laugh with people, not at people. There's a danger, isn't there, in this crazy world that we start laughing at people. Look how stupid they are. And I think that only creates more bitterness. So laughing with people when we can, not at them, is the shift from bitterness to togetherness. Yeah. So refrain from laughing at people. Don't take everything so seriously. It's too important to be taken seriously. Seriousness is too heavy. We need to lighten up. All right. Number 3, spend more time giving thanks. And Doug mentioned that earlier. Gratitude is closely related to buoyancy, isn't it? And lightness. If you're grateful, you're light. If you're resentful, you're heavy. So when you can be grateful, even for the littlest things, it's a buoyancy. It lifts you up. It fills your mind and your body with a certain lightness and seeing the good in things. Because you can't be grateful unless you can see the good. And when you do that, that allows for humor, I believe. That allows for joy and laughter to enter in. That's 3. Be grateful. 4, notice how many opportunities there are for humor in the human condition, right? of irony and even hilarity. Um, Life is quite funny, as I said earlier, even in the worst of moments. There's a bit in The Big Lebowski, which is one of the movies I go back to every so often if I want to get a good laugh and have fun. Are you familiar with The Big Lebowski with Jeff Bridges? Oh, it's brilliant. I love that. I love that movie. But there's a bit at the end where his a little bit of obtuse friend is taking the ashes of a fellow Vietnam vet to the coast to throw the ashes in the sea. And just as they open the casket, it's not actually a casket, it's an empty box of fast food. So he's using a fast food box full of the ashes of this guy. But then, just as he's throwing it into the sea, there's a gust of wind, and it blows it back onto the characters in the movie, and it's hilarious, you know. But it's about how crazy life can be, you know. This is supposed to be a sacred moment, and we're throwing these ashes from a fast food box onto ourselves, you know. And of course, the main character, Jeff Bridges, gets angry and then sees the funny aspect of it. So. Another aspect for me is, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I was at lunch with an old friend of mine and then three other people in an assisted living place, and he's on hospice, and he couldn't eat himself, so I was feeding him lunch, and I was looking around at these three people with him, and they're all in various levels of dementia or inability. They all were managing to eat, but it was a struggle. And initially, I looked around and I thought, "Oh God, this is some kind of hell." You know, this is what we're all going to come to, where we can't even feed ourselves and and can't talk and etc. etc. But then after being there, you know, with him for about 30, 40 minutes, I discovered this is a holy place. You know, this is a place where we're still caring for each other. We're still there. We're still hanging in. And the caregivers were nice too, helping people with their food. And I thought this is this life in general, you know. On the one hand, it can be hell. But then if we look at it in a different way, it's heaven. And it's happening in the very same place, right? Even an assisted living place where life has become very limited. You know, there's not the freedom that we have when we're younger, and yet there's still joy there. There's still spirit there. There's still that moment of a sacred interaction that can take place, and it can be very simple, but it's profound. And it was felt good for me also personally to feed my friends, you know, because it's a humble act of giving to another person. So. That's the deepest sense of humor. It's the deepest sense. It's the joy connection there in that moment. That was four, wasn't it? Five. How are we doing for time? All right. Um, defang, defang the ugly and enhance the good. And what I mean by that is, and I don't know if I shared that with you last time, but it's a phrase that I use that I stick on the end of sentences, just like me. And you can defang pretty much anything when you do that. So, what an idiot! You're on the highway. That you know that what I'm talking about. When that guy cuts you off, or when he's weaving in and out, what a freaking idiot he is! Just like me. So take it onto yourself. Own it for yourself because you've done stupid things as well, right? It's not just unique to that guy. So rather than project onto him, defang the situation. What an idiot! Yeah, he is just like me, and it sort of takes away the thrust you have towards that, the enmity towards him, brings it on home to you. In the same way, what a wonderful person that is, just like me, right? So if you can see the good in somebody, claim it for yourself as well, because yeah, you are good. You're a good person. You have craziness going, but you're a good person too. So just do the just by me addition to a sentence at any given time, and it defangs the situation, right? It takes away the enmity you might feel, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's just life, you know, let it go, just like me. Six, reframe, which is similar in a way to defanging. Reframe our approach to a person or an idea or a politics or a certainty. Can I see it in a different light? Is it absolutely true that this is the way it is? Can I entertain another way of approaching this? Yeah, reframe it so I don't have to get stuck. The brain takes pathways, neural pathways, right? And it's sort of prejudicial in that way. It goes down the same pathways if you're not careful. You see a certain person, you make a judgment, and all of a sudden they're who they are, not in reality, but what you think they are. But if you create a new neural pathway, maybe I can see this person in a new light, see them differently, see them as a divine being rather than. I know a lot of people have problems beholding the Christ in our political leaders, right? I can't stand that person. I can't see the light in them. But the thing is, we have to see the light even in the people we despise. We can disagree with their behavior and their policies and all that. That's great. But we have to accept that they are also a Christed being. It may be hidden maybe deep down, I don't know, but that we are all in this together, yes? And to heal ourselves of the enmity is to behold the Christ in them as well. So that's a reframing of that. Again, not to like the behavior. And then finally, relax, right? Just relax, take a load off, enjoy the moment, don't get too heavy, forget everything you've heard today, and trust yourself, right? Relax into that. I don't mean it literally, forget everything you heard today, but I'm saying don't worry about, well, maybe I should do this, that, and the other. No, no. Trust your inner guidance, trust the natural wisdom within yourself, relax into that, and all will be well. That's all I got today. Thanks so much. And we're going to, I think, do a short meditation. Do we have time for that, Jeff? All right, great. So let's do a short meditation on relaxing. First thing is to get still, put our feet on the ground, keep our back straight. Just sit quietly and evenly in our chair. Put our hands where they're not going to disturb us. Take a deep breath and relax. Take in all the stress and then breathe it out. Do that a few times. Settle ourselves down into that quiet place. And for this time at least, take a load off. Nothing to do, nothing to solve, nothing to struggle for, just simply someone to be right now. To be relaxed. Follow that breath. As you let out all that you don't need. And settle into that relaxed, comfortable place of being just you. We have many roles, we have many designations, many labels, but beyond all those things, there is simply us, the I am. The natural essence of who we are in truth. It's beautiful, it's clear, it's open, it's unhindered. And I am that peace. I am that relaxed being of all possibility. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. Just simply being the natural perfection that I am. And we give ourselves the gift of being in that presence now, in that state of total natural relaxation into the one, in the silence, in the silence. And we seal this time by affirming for ourselves that this day I am relaxed, I am fun, I am joy, and I am peace. I am relaxed, I'm fun, I'm joy, and I am at peace. This is the truth, and I am grateful. And so it is.
Funny, Paul. Thank you. That was wonderful. Uh, you know that from my perspective, humor is incredibly important, and you have reiterated many of the uh, ways in which we see it and use it, and how we deny it, and it, uh, and also the opportunities for humor to actually look for it. Uh, I thank you for doing that. It was a wonderful way to keep things light. Uh, good. Um, we are going to proceed here for a little bit, but we certainly would like you to stick around for our coffee talk time, which will be in about 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Are you able to do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Great, great.